Hello, and welcome to Rallying the Forge. I'm your host, Solymr. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Rallying the Forge. I'm Solymr, and in today's episode, I want to do kind of a recap of the AusForge Season 1 Silver Invitational, and I just want to kind of go through just the whole event itself, but then also a little bit on the decks that people used and all that. But before we get to that, do want to remind everyone, Season 1 is ending in, I think, just under 3 weeks, we'll say. July 21st is the end date, so get those points in. You can see the overall standings, and then, of course, I didn't want to do that, but you can see the daily rewards. They've got a lot of this working now. They did patch some of that and fix that, so that's great. So now your campaign XP can count, and all your PvP stuff should work, and achievements that were broke before work now. Head to the Discord if you have questions regarding all that stuff. I'm not going to go over it in this video here, but just wanted to touch on that. So I do want to touch on the other thing I want to say is I always highly recommend getting the collection manager. Oops, wrong button. And using that, there are some new features added there. Of course, we have the achievement progress. I've updated that. I am unsure if Gorman has uploaded the fix for showing the Season 1 achievements, as it's one of the bugs they fixed. The Season 0.2 is still in the state it was in prior. They have not moved it over to Season 1, but they have fixed all of the current achievements, the daily achievements, to show Season 1, and they will count towards your current score. So the new fix will update that and pull the Season 1 data in with the Season 0.2, and it'll flag it, as you can see in this image. Another feature, I don't remember if I covered this or not before, SolForge Fusion Decks.com. Highly recommend using it. There are now two functions you can run in the collection manager. You go down here, you can pull the top SolForge Fusion decks. If you go to the website, it pulls them up on their homepage. You get the top 3 of each faction. This pulls them into the spreadsheet with some data regarding them and some additional information on them. But largely has the same information that is provided on the website. The things that you don't see on there is the owner, and I've got their friend code, which is kind of for future use. I assume that's the way we're going to friend people in the future instead of through Steam, but that's probably down the road, but it's just a future thing, future-proofing it, right? The other thing you can do is you can pull in your decks if you have an account. So you can go there, sign up for an account. It'll have you sign up using your username that you use for SolForge, and then they can pull in your deck collection information, and you can see your top 3 decks of each faction as well. If you donate to them, there's a donate button on there. You can download a CSV of all of your decks with all of the information. I don't have the skills or any of that to be able to pull that in to have it do it to like here or something, but you can save the file and paste it in here on a sheet yourself. That's what I do in my collection manager. This is my decks. I paste it in here, I format it, and all that jazz. So but you can see your top decks. If you have an account on there, you can pull it in here so you can see your decks, and I think it's a great tool to help players find decks to potentially build something with. So one of the decks I used in the AusForge event actually is this green deck. It's not bronze. I don't know why it shows bronze. Maybe I haven't updated it in a while. I don't know. So I opened this. I don't remember exactly when I opened it, but when I opened it, I was going through and I was recording decks I thought were interesting. This was one of them. I said it was interesting. When I put it into SolForgeFusionDecks.com, it reaffirmed what I thought about the deck. Granted, I'm an experienced player. I have more knowledge than a new player when it comes to what decks could be good, what decks may not be good. So it just reaffirmed for me that this deck really could be something good. So I put it together with some options, and had been testing it, and then I finally put it into an event such as the AusForge Season 1 Silver event, and of course, spoiler alert, I ended up winning it with this deck. So very fortunate for that. Sometimes it's good to be lucky, better to be lucky than good. So if a player has on their SolForge Fusion profile their Discord ID, it will post it in here as well, so you can find a way to contact them. So this is more useful for here if you're trying to find somebody to you want to inquire about a deck, acquiring a deck, maybe you like it, maybe they don't use it or something. You could potentially reach out to them through Discord if their name pops up in here. Otherwise, you have their in-game name. If you play them or you want to look for them, you could probably find them on Discord using the same method. So that's in the collection manager. And the other thing that's in the collection manager that we're going to use, I'm going to use my personal sheet for it though, is the Analyze Tournaments. So what that does is you take the event code, which you can't see on here, but it's going to be this portion after it says event / it'll give you a letter code. Take that letter code, you'll put it into the Analyze Tournaments button. It'll pop up a screen here and request it, and then you put it in and it'll pull that data for you. So I wanted to do it on my personal one, so I'm not cluttered with all the other tabs and other things. I have just what I need here to go through. So something I haven't built into it yet that I may or may not do. It's kind of a side project right now of mine, but I have where I break out their opponent's record, because we found a couple times some discrepancies in opponent match win percentage, what the site says and what they actually have. Some of this could have to do with best of 3 stuff potentially screwing it up. I have to dig in more. I'm not there yet, but I had pulled this up for this event so I could see what everyone faced as far as difficulty in the Swiss rounds, just for kind of an idea of personal assessment of some things. But I'm not trying to talk bad about anybody or their deck, or hype up myself or anything like that. I use it for personal evaluation to kind of get an idea. I think it's a good barometer when you have known good players in a specific event and they're the only players in there. You can get an idea of how difficult their opponents were when they played. So I like the data. It's not in any of the other stuff yet. Like I said, it's a side project I'm working on. No ETA on that. But so this pulls in this sheet and it gives you the standings, and then it tells you who everyone played in each round. And then we have other information. So we have the event data. And if you've watched other videos of mine, you've seen this stuff. I've gone over this kind of, but so I'll kind of reiterate that a little bit, but also going to try to focus on its effect on the current event that we're going over. So in this event, 10 Necrium half decks. There was 12 participants. That means 10 out of 12, 5 out of 6 players had a Necrium half, and that's ridiculously high. But in a competitive environment, that's to be expected. 7 Utera halves, 5 Tempests, and 2 Aloyan. So Aloyan, again, does not get a lot of attention. It is considered the worst faction by far, only because there's too many weak cards that get paired with their actual good cards. And they do have some really good ones too. But so you can see the pairings. Necrium Utera was the top half the decks for Necrium Utera. That's, again, not terribly surprising. It is the top archetype. and we'll get into the decks a little bit when we go through them, when we go through some of the pairings, as I'll be blitzing through that kind of. Otherwise, this video could end up being several hours long analyzing things. But then 3 decks were Necrim Tempest, also a common pairing, so not surprising that that's number 2 at 3. That's a quarter of the decks, leaving 1/4 of the decks to some unique builds. We had an Alolan Tempest build, a Alolan Necrim build, and a Tempest Utera build. Of course, the winning deck was mine. Mine was Necrim Utera. Top 4 pairs, 3 out of the 4 were Necrim Utera. The other one was Alolan Tempest. Nice to see Alolan make it there. I do personally think that the best deck that was in the event was the Alolan Tempest deck. He just he said Necrim Utera was his weak spot for his deck, and that's what he faced and he lost to. Sam's deck's a very good deck and did very well. I believe I have the recordings on YouTube for that matchup, Nathus versus Billy Bad Aim, but just check it out. Some good matches. Top 8, we didn't have a top 8, we had top 4, but if you took the top 8 by standings, half of them were Necrim Utera. Necrim Tempest had 2, and then Alolan Tempest, Alolan Necrim 1 each. Forgeborns, 4 Oros, 3 Cersei, 2 Sunder, then you had a Steel Rosetta, Toxis Mori, and a Blighted Sunder Necrium. And that was all 12. So a third of them were Oros. Not surprising. The surprise for me, I suppose, is that Cersei wasn't first with that many Necrim Utera decks. But yeah, so Cersei was third, or had 3. It was second, and Sunder was the third one with 2. So not surprised to see those 3 at the top. They're definitely very popular ones with earlier sets, not necessarily set 4. Set 1 pairs, we had 5 Necrim Utera, and the way this counts is every half deck counts as an actual half, so this was actual 5 Necrim Utera pairings, or pretty sure that's what it was, actual pairings, but because that's how it had to work out, I guess that's what it would count for. Yeah. I suppose it could have been a set. We have 1 Necrim Utera in set 4. It could have been like there could have been 2 set 4, set 1 pairs, vice versa. But nonetheless, but 5 count there. 1 for Necrim Tempest, all set 1. Then you half decks for those. Set 2 had 1.5 Necrim Tempest decks. And then you had a set 3 half deck. And set 4 had 1 Necrim Utera and 3 half decks from there. I'm guessing. So the Necrim Tempest was with set 2, and Alolan Tempest and Tempest Utera were with set 1, and then the set 3 was with set 1. That's how it works out. So before moving on from this page, I don't think there's really any surprises here. I should bring up, let me pop up the image. The graphic is courtesy of Nathus and Scuba Toad. This was their SolForge Fusion meta breakdown, and there's a video. I'll link that video in the video description for this one, or put a card on there perhaps if I'm able to. I'll see if that's a possibility. It's a great video if you're into competitive SolForge Fusion or just like winning. Watch this video. They break this down. They discuss it. They talk about potentially where things are going, and they cover everything you can think about with this. They do a great job with it, but they put this together kind of showing what archetypes are, where they fit. So they've got the cards related to that. You can see the faction colors. They did a really nice breakdown. So I have a personal issue with the Rumble Spark. I do think it's the second best archetype, but I think there's a large misconception in the community regarding its power and how it's going to translate into tournament success. Up until the recent gold event, there had not been an RC, I don't think, to win a major SolForge Fusion event. So that was the first one that won, and Traveler's deck might be the best Rumble Spark ever. I think very highly of it. I know he talks down on it a lot, and he has found some people that can beat him consistently, but I could not. And I think it's just such a good deck. But I think the problem with Rumble Spark is people think if you get a Rumble Spark deck that now you have a deck that you can go be competitive with. And Rumble Sparks are great in the fact that they can beat most poor decks, bad decks, almost. If you build a regular Rumble Spark deck, you can beat probably a good 90% of actual bad decks, majority of the time. It's when you get to the competitive scene, everything ramps up, and your Rumble Spark deck doesn't ramp up. The best you can do is turn one, flip it, and have them have no answers for it. That's not anything different than like a new WADA deck flipping. I think it's a new WADA deck that flips for the 10-10 guy with breakthrough. I don't know the creature's name. That flipping early is crushing for a player because they don't have removal for it. You have to beat it through combat typically, and it has breakthrough. Rumble Spark Energy does not, but it comes back all the time. That's why it's so good. So that's a whole different discussion, but I just had to put it out there because it's like a quirk of mine, I guess. I just have to say that when I show it, just because I don't want people to think that just getting an RSC deck means you're going to win an event, because it's not necessarily the case. So we did have an RSC deck in this event, at least one. I don't know if we had two or not. We'll see when we go through the decks. I didn't play everybody. I played the 4 people in Swiss, and then I played 2 people in the top cut. So that's the event data there, which you can pull in the collection manager and view yourself, go over it. You'll also see individual player information. So it's very similar to the first tab with the event stuff, the standings. I've got a win percentage there just for having that graphically shown. You can see what set they played. So for example, on my name, I'm up there at 5-1. That's all under set 1. So that means I played only set 1. You can see here Rusty, who had an 80% win rate, even though he finished 4th overall. He had set 1 and set 4, so he played set 1 and 4. So you can kind of see what they played, and then this tells you the factions as well, which you could, so now you know exactly what the player's playing, as well as it's shown here. And then there's an event link. You can go to the event yourself if you'd like. So that's you've got the code to put it in there, but on the off chance, you come back to this later or something, maybe you don't have it open. So card data. This is going to pull in. This is the full actual card name, and then we have the base card name where we remove the forge modifiers. So things like Shambler, for example. You're not going to see it over here in the card name pile because they're different named forge modified Shamblers. But actual Shamblers, there was 4 in the event. And this breaks it down by set, by faction. We've got forge modifiers, and then forge modifiers by faction and set. So a complete breakdown. This is great to be able to see. There were 7 Swamp Moss Lurkers, which is just crazy. There's 7 of them. There was only 6 Necromutera decks. So someone had to have a Betrayer. Someone had a Betrayer one. I don't remember playing that person. Maybe I did. I don't know. We'll find out when we go through the decks. But 7 Swamp Moss Lurkers, so you can tell right away if you're building Necromutera, the Utera, or perhaps Necrium, Swamp Moss Lurker, whether Betrayer or not, is a key card that players were using. I'll be curious to see if every Necromutera deck had Swamp Moss Lurker, or if we had some Betrayers or other versions. That'd be really curious to see. You can see at the top, though, Spirit Leash, Darkheart Sorcerer, Dreadbolt, Primal Surge, Shambler, Zerath's Will, Botanimate. So you look at, what's that, top 8 cards. You have a card that plays for free. You have a removal type source, or soft removal. You have Darkheart Sorcerer, Life Gain and Drain there. Dreadbolt, removal. Primal Surge, free card. Shambler, Life Gain and Drain. You have Zerath's Will, free play. Botanimate, removal. So that right there tells you so much information. That's why it is the top. It's the top archetype. And set 1, it really just meshes so well. There's a lot of life gain. There's a lot of ways to get free plays. It's got the best removal. So these cards are cards you want to look for to put in your deck. If you've got if you've got 2 half decks with all these cards, you might want to put them together and see how it goes. It'd probably do pretty good. So if you're looking by set, you want to see some different stuff. Set 3 just had the one deck, so you don't really get a good idea of set 3 stuff, and set 2 only had 3 half decks for it. But there are 2 Nova Elementalists, so we did have 2 RC decks. That's not surprising to see with set 2, to see Nova Elementalists near the top. Set 4 being still very new and not really entirely figured out. You see Blightmane Dragon at the top, Cryptic Discovery, Queen's Assassin, Rage of the Elements, Summoning Horde. I think this was more... Sorry, I need to do something here because this doesn't seem right. It is 50 cards. That's crazy. It doesn't look like 50 cards to me. Yeah, wow. Okay, that's 50 cards. It didn't look like 50 cards, but I was expecting 50 to go really far. I guess it is 50. Look at that. 50's down here. I guess I keep things really small on my screen. But so there was only is there a Verlana on here? Yeah, there's 1 Verlana. I'm surprised at that. So out of 5 decks that were set 4, only 1 of them had a Verlana. 2 had Blightmane Dragon. It's a card I'm very fond of. I know Billy Badaim's Glacier deck had that in there, although he did not draw it almost ever. Queen's Assassin, a very good card in my opinion. Eric's the Stormweaver, great for spell slinging decks. And there's a lot of good cards in set 4. So interestingly, it was a wide variety of cards from set 4, though. You get the best idea from this because set 1 had the most decks out of the 24 half decks. I don't know how many it had total. 15. So 15, you can get a better idea of set 1, what to look for. So looking through that, and you can go by faction and look. Aloyn, you're not going to get a good idea. There's only 2 Aloyn half decks. There was 10 Necrium, so you're going to get a good idea on Necrium. And was it Utera was next at 7. Could get a decent idea on Utera. And then Tempest had 5, so might be able to get a little bit of an idea here. Ice Storm was in 3 decks. Elementalist Ritual in 2 of them. Flame Jet in 2 of them. Nova Elementalist. There's 2 Shardbacks of some nature. So you can see and find cards. Again, you can pull this information up in the collection manager yourself by putting in the event code. It'll pull all this data for you. We've got Forge modifiers, 5 Devouring Forge modifiers. 2 of them were Nathus's deck. Ardent, Arrogant, Combat, Commanding, Shambling, Soothing, Stoic. Soothing, I had a double Soothing deck, so 2 of those 3 were in my deck. It breaks down by set as well. and then by faction as well. So you can see what Forge modifiers people might be looking for or playing with. Down here, there's Vampiric. That's a really good modifier. I'm surprised there wasn't more of that, but it is what it is, I suppose. You know, not everybody has a triple Vampiric deck or something like that. I wish I did. It'd be really a lot of fun. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to show is the Forgeborn data. So we said Oros was the top, and then Circe, then Sunder. So they'll have the most counts here. But Oros, all 4 Oros had Darkforge Drain and Growth Aura. So the key, I think, was Darkforge Drain for all those decks. The 3 Oros had Shapeshift, and the last Oros had a Bark Skin. And you can see what level they had these abilities at. Sunder, 2 of the Sunders had Summon the Swarm and Gale Surge. 2 Circes had Soul Siphon and Life Drain. Only 1 Circe had Army Commander and is at level 2. Surprising. There's a Bones of Solace Circe. That's the set 3 Circe. So set 3 was Necrium. That had to be Carl's deck, I bet. Sorrow and Soul Swap. Yeah, definitely Carl. Only 1 Circe had Death Touch. So I was kind of surprised, like I said, that Circe wasn't the most popular, but looking at the Circes, none of them, there might have been 1 perfect Circe. I don't even know. No, because there was no AC4. So typically a perfect Circe has Life Drain or Death Touch at levels 1 and 2, and then Army Commander at level 4. Or level 2 and 3 is Life Drain and Death Touch, and level 4 is Army Commander. So that's considered a perfect Circe, and none of them were perfect Circe. So that's kind of interesting. And typically with those, you'll see Mantis Forge Seal decks, which I didn't mention Mantis in the cards. Or did I? Terra Mantis, 2 Mantises only. So that's kind of interesting. So these decks definitely went hard with spells, Darkforge Drain, and that type of stuff. So I've got all the decks pulled up here. I have them in some sort of order so I can identify what deck's what, sort of, but it's going to take me a minute. So I'm going to go through each round, each match, and just quickly look at the decks and say who won each match, and then we'll move on because there's a bunch of rounds to get through. So we'll start with my match here against Sam. I won that matchup, 2 matches to none, and that is on YouTube as well. So my deck, Necrium, Utera, Life Gain and Drain. I got a Shambling Summoner. My Vampiric Creeper came in clutch against him. I have a lot of ways to gain life with the Utera half, Glowhive Siren, Double Soothing, Refreshing Ranger, Botanimate gains me life. Of course, there's some other life gain stuff here for Necrium as well, but that's the gist of my deck. His is, I gotta find out what order. He's right before me. So this is Sam's. It is double Devouring, double Shamble. So he's got Devouring Shambler and Shambling Reaper and Devouring Geist. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Love the combination. But it was hard for him to keep those on the board against me when he did have them. He does have a Krogaius, but against me, I don't know if he ever got the level 3 out against me. He did occasionally level it up, but I don't know how often that was, to be honest. He has a Swamp Moss Lurker, has a Glowhive Siren, Refreshing War Tusk for life gain. He does have Taliesin for free plays. He also has Primal Surge, which is a free play. He's got life gain through Druid's Chant, Nap Time. He's got a bunch of life gain as well. He's got an Abyssal Demon, which is a great third turn card. So that is his deck. The next match we're going to look at is Bryce versus Jed. Bryce is going to be 3 and Jed 4 after that. So Bryce's deck, he's got Necromutera as well. He's got a Blight Witch with a Dark Heart, so he's definitely going spell heavy. He's got a Ghoulish Shambler, which is pretty good too. Upgrading cards. He's got a Swamp Moss Lurker, double stampeding creatures for breakthrough, and Spring Dryad. And then a bunch of spells, as I said. And then Jed was playing RSE. So Jed had RSE with a Dark Heart Sorcerer. He's got a Devouring Shambler. That's pretty awesome. With a Dark Heart, Devouring Shambler. He's got a Vampiric Apparition. I really like that Necrim half there. Dreadbolt, Om Nom Nom, Spirit Leash. Love the spells. And did I say Bryce won that matchup? And then we have Carl versus Tony. Carl winning 2-1. Tony's deck here, Necromutera. He's got a Swamp Moss, Spring Dryad, Soothing Ravager. Soothing Ravager is such a good card. He's got a Betrayer Spring Dryad. That's really nice. So you can see his spells there. He doesn't have a Dreadbolt or Botanimate. I don't know how much that hurt him or not. And then Carl's deck. Yep, this is Carl's deck. Necrim Aloyan. So his deck is a Bones of Solace deck. And his thing is to eventually soul swap you and kill you with Shambling Direhound or whatnot using River of Souls or one of his other reanimation effects. Or beat you outright before then, too. He's got a Rallying Tinker. He's got Stabilizing War Charger, Sonic Burst. So he's got a bunch of tools, a lot of things he can bring back. It is a very recursive type deck, in my opinion. It's not your typical Utera Necrium version of it, but it definitely, the Shambling Direhound, he does a lot of tricks with that. He's really good at doing that. So that was a deck I did not have to face, thankfully. Brandon versus Core. Let's look where they are. Brandon is 2. And Core is 3 after that. Okay. Brandon is playing RSE as well. And he's got a Darkheart Necrium half. He's got a Betrayer Swamp Moss. He's the Betrayer Swamp Moss. He's got a Stitcher. He's got a Dreadbolt. And other spells there. He's got Ice Storm, Elementalist Ritual, Disintegrate. So he's got a lot of removal there. I did not face him either. He did win against Core, who played a Necrium Utera set 4, entire set 4, Necrium Utera. He's got the Verlana. He's got a Queen's Assassin, Fuse. It's a very good Necrium version. The Strider, I think, is a warrior as well. The Keist is a Betrayer warrior. That's really nice. And Zelrath. I like the card, but at the same time, it's frustrating because you got to take the damage to get him to go off. And then he's got a Darkforge Utera half. He's got Core in it. He's got a Betrayer Queen's Assassin in it. That's nice. Core's also a warrior. Tangle Sprout's a really strong card. He's got some other stuff here, so interesting deck there. But perhaps not a match for RSE. We had KC Kid versus Rusty. And those are 4 and 5 in. So if I'd quit clicking so quickly, it's Ryan. This is Ryan's deck. KC Kid had a Tempest Utera. He's got a Swamp Moss Lurker with a Mantis, Leyline Vermin. He's got a big spell package here. So he's got Eric's the Stormweaver, no doubt, for the spells. He has a Blightmane Dragon in his deck. And he's got some nice, not White Fang Pass, but everything else is nice for spells. Tempest Loyalty, Storm Strike, Rage of the Elements. So surprised to see this Tempest half. He's got a 7 Darkforge card version of a Tempest. I don't know if that deck just doesn't work or something, but it was a fascinating deck when he pulled it a while back. Rusty, of course, playing what I think is the best deck in the event. He has a Glacier deck here with an Alolan. It's a Tempest Alolan. And he has Betrayer Yeti Warcaller, which he uses to help clear the board for the most part. So if a creature moved, he can activate it and deal 3 damage to a creature or player. He's got things like Epoch Hawk in there that can swap 2 creatures. That counts as 2 movements. I can personally attest, you can watch the replay of our match. When he gets multiple of them on the board, it's no amount of life gain can keep up with that, in my opinion. It's just so much damage going on. You really got to get these things off the board quick. If you can get the Glacier off the board and the Warcaller, you're in good shape for the most part. You do have to watch out for the Blightmane Dragon, but like I said, against me, I don't think he pulled that at all. I don't remember seeing it. So he's got a nice spell package, a surprise Sonic Burst in there that can do some work against things like Darkheart Sorcerers and low attack creatures. So that's a nice card. He does have a Drix even to potentially pump up creatures when he's playing stuff. He has Volteris if he wants to pump out Spell Sprite minions. So really like the deck. It's really unique with the Betrayer Yeti Warcaller. It's an incredible build. So just my opinion on it. Of course, Rusty won that. Austin versus Isaac. So Isaac's 5 in after Austin. This is Austin's deck. Necrium Utera. Surprise, surprise. Swamp Moss Lurker. He's got a Stegodon to gain life and Botanimate. So he doesn't have a lot of life gain in the Utera half. He's got it in the Necrium half with Varric's Embrace. He's got a Darkheart Sorcerer. Shambler can gain him health. He does have a Devouring Geist in there. He does have a Stitcher and Harvester. So definitely an interesting build. 4, 5. This is Isaac's deck. He has a Necrium Tempest build. He has a Furious Shardback with a Windy Stormling and 6 spells. He's got Flame Jet, which goes for free. Elementalist Rituals, great. Disintegrate, Ice Storm. He's got Lightning Charge and Warbringer Ritual. So I really like, obviously, the spell package. His creature package is pretty good. The War Stoker's not bad. It can move. The Sentinel gets pumped based on spell play. So really, really good Tempest half there. And then he has a Dark Forged Necrium half with Eclipse Hydra, the Nihil Dreadmaw, and Voidwing Cacklebones. So if he can get his health down, if he can take damage each turn, he's got removal with the Hydra. Voidwing Cacklebones can be removal for him. He does have Dissipating Infantry. So that lets him play a minion when it comes out, so he can fill up extra lanes if he needs to. It's a nice lane clogger. And then this one also has 6 spells. Cryptic Discovery, Endless Hunt, Feeding Frenzy, Pestilence, Scythe of Sharon, and Summoning Horde. So, not bad, not great for the spells, in my opinion. Pestilence is wonderful, of course, one of the best spells in set 4, in my opinion. So, very interesting deck build. I think he's got another version with a different Necreum half with this. I'd have to look it up, but definitely the Tempest half is really, really good. So, and Austin won that 2-1. So we went to round 2, and we had Bryce versus me. I won 2 matches to 1. That was a Necreum Mutera matchup there. You had Brandon versus Austin. So Brandon has the RC. Austin has this deck. Austin won that. You had Rusty versus Carl. Rusty has the Glacier deck. Carl has the Soul Swap Bladed Circe set 3 deck. We had Casey Kidd versus Sam. Sam won that. Sam, of course, has the Double Devouring, Double Shamble deck. Ryan had brought the Blightmane Dragon Tempest with Nutera deck with a Mantis and Lurker. Then we had Isaac versus Core. Isaac won that with his deck. And then Jed versus Tony. Jed had RC. Tony had Necreum Mutera. Round 3. We have myself versus Rusty. Rusty won that 2-1 with his Glacier deck. Austin beat Carl. Brandon lost to Isaac. It's a really good matchup for Isaac's deck, RCs. Bryce versus Sam. Sam won that match. That was like a Necreum Mutera mirror match. Ryan beat Tony. And Jed beat Core. And then in the final round of Swiss, we had myself versus Isaac. I won that one. The winner was going to get into the top cut. Rusty versus Austin. Rusty had basically already clinched top cut, but he won anyhow. Sam versus Tony. Sam won, so he put himself in the top cut. And then I think Austin also was in the top cut, if I'm not mistaken, even though he lost to Rusty. Were they both 3-0? Yeah, I think they were both 3-0. Yeah, Austin was 3-0 as well, so he went to 3-1. So they were both in, and then Sam winning put himself in, and that made our match, Isaac and mine, winner gets in. And then you had Bryce beat Ryan, Brandon beat Jed in the RC match, mirror match, and then you had Carl beat Core. And so let me go to the placings. You'll be able to see how the non-top cut finished. Carl, Isaac, Bryce, Brandon, Ryan, Tony, Jed, and Greg. That's how they finished. So Carl, of course, had Necreum Aloyan. Isaac had the Necreum Tempest. Bryce had Necreum Mutera. Brandon had RC. Ryan had Tempest Mutera. Tony Necreum Mutera. Jed RC. And Core, I can't remember what Core had now. I need to find what spot he's in here. He's the 5th one in. He had Necreum Mutera set 4, that's right. He had the Verlana double Queen's Assassin, which is really nice. Okay, so then we get back to the pairings for top cut. Myself versus Austin in a Necreum Mutera mirror. I won that. Sam versus Rusty. Sam pulls out that. Both these matches have recordings up on YouTube. You can find them there. And then for the championship match, it was myself versus Sam in a Necrim Mutera mirror match, rematch, and I pulled that out. So overall, here's the final standings. And you can go to the event page, pull up all these decks through the links here. You can also pull it then through the collection manager, and it has the deck links for each player. And yeah, there's lots of information here for people to see. So let me close all these out. All right, so yeah, that's kind of the recap of just a general recap of the event. You got to see everyone's decks. We went through the matches, who won, played who. We didn't get into analyzing the matches or anything like that. I think most of the matches, a good chunk of them, were recorded, but you can, like I said, pull this data yourself and analyze it. If there's something else you'd like to see that might be available that is not in the data that you might find useful, feel free to share that. I'm always open to ideas. But yeah, the event was a lot of fun. I wasn't surprised at so much Necrim. I was surprised at so much Necrim Mutera. I expected maybe more than 2 RSCs. I think there were some prizes with the deck choices, so it's just curious to see sometimes and see how decks perform. There's a Season 2 Silver event for AusForge about to start for the top 12 for Season 2. And again, it's going to be a lot of really good players. A lot of good decks are going to be in that, so it's going to be interesting to see what people bring. And when that ends in 3 months or so, we can analyze that event. So, don't think there's much else to discuss for that. But I did want to kind of go over it just in a general overview of it to see what people were playing, what kind of cards were very popular. I was surprised that there were 7 Swamp Moss Lurkers. That is a really high amount for that particular card. It's a named card. It's not like a forged modified, where you're getting a certain modifier a bunch of times. But definitely was the most popular card in the event, and kind of tells you something. So take what you will from this. I do hope that you enjoyed getting a little bit of insight into that. And like I said, you can all do this yourself as well if you like. But if not, I'll probably try to do some videos like this on some events. I may go back and do the Shadows over Solus qualifiers and the championship as well. Maybe go through those a little bit, because those had some really good decks in them too, and they had more players. So it might be something good to look at. But yeah, if you have a comment or anything you want to say, you can always put comments down in the video. I respond to them all currently. And yeah, I appreciate your time. Appreciate you watching. Thanks for being here for this episode of Rallying the Forge. Look forward to seeing you guys in and around the game. Don't forget, Season 1 ends in just under 3 weeks. So get those points in, and yeah, we'll see how things shape up by the end of the season. Take care. See you guys next time. This has been an episode of Rallying the Forge. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.